Well, good morning and welcome. I'm Bobbi, one of the pastors here. It is good to be with you. Holy cow, that got super, super bright. Guys, I can't even see, just so you know. Man, it's been a hot minute since I've been on the stage with you guys. And my heart is tender today. I'm just going to put it out there with you. One, my blood sugar is all over the place, and so did you know that squeezes are like the next level thing? They're not just for little ones. They're for us who have blood sugar issues. So if you hear an alarm, it shouldn't. I've prepared, but just in case, it's going to be hanging out with me. Two is that I think this is the first time that I've preached with you guys since Mom has passed, and I'm in all the feels. And I will talk a little bit about her today. So I'm just letting you know, grace and mercy might need to be had. I made it through first service. We can make it through this service. But, you know, we're stepping into a sermon series that we're inviting you into, not just a sermon series, but a way of life called Wholehearted Living, and being in touch with your entire heart that God is creating in you. And then also in touch with God's heart and others' hearts. And so I think I just have to lay it out there for you guys of where my heart is in this process. But before we go into this, before we start really talking about how we've been called to live a life of connection because we were created out of connection, and to live a life of not just surviving, but thriving in the fullness of the life that Christ came to give us, let's just take a moment, let's pause, because I also understand there are students in the room and you start school this week. And I know that that's a lot, and it's a lot for parents to navigate. I am one praising God that you go back to school, because my 3 kiddos go back to school, but I know that you're all over the place too. So let's take a moment and let's go to God in prayer. Gracious God, Lord, I really believe that we as a community, we as a church body, we as part of your body are stepping into something so much bigger than we could ever imagine. And I really believe that you have been preparing today specifically for years, but I know for sure intentionally for at least a year. So Lord, I pray as all of our minds and our hearts and our souls are in 10,000 different places, some of us, our souls are in 10,000 different pieces. Lord, I just pray that as we take a collective breath, that we breathe in that life and that spirit that brings utter abundance of life. And Lord, that you settle our hearts and our minds to be able to hear your whispers and to hear the life that you have called us to live, and how maybe we've been sabotaging our own selves from living that life. I thank you for this opportunity, Lord. Would you settle my own heart and my own soul and my blood sugar, so that, Lord, you can work through me in all the ways and that I don't hinder that at all. I thank you for loving us so big. We love you, Lord. Amen. So there's a certain kind of ache, a longing that lives within each and every one of us, whether we are aware of it or not. It's the one that lingers in the in-between, when the room has gone suddenly silent after all the music fades, the one that begs for you to linger and to slow down for just a second, when that to-do list that seems never ending is actually coming to finish. It's a whisper inside of each of us that asks, is there more to life than this? Does anyone really actually know me? So I've had the longest month and a half of my entire life, the hardest month I've ever walked through. And last week or a couple weeks ago, I was laying on my 14-year-old daughter's bed just to catch my breath for a second. And you know I'm putting my life in my hands by doing that, because if you have a 14-year-old daughter, there's no telling what's in your rooms, I'm just saying, or what's on top of your beds. There's like chaos. I know I'm not the only one that has to walk through this. But I was lying on her bed, and I was looking around the room, taking stock of all the things that hung on her wall. She's got what feels like 10,000 things on her walls, but in reality, there's at least 10 paintings that my mom has painted specifically for her. And there's one painting that now hangs up just above her bed headboard. And it is the one that my mom created for her within the past 6 months, I think. This painting contains two things that my daughter loves the most. One, Jeeps. For some reason or not, my 14-year-old daughter has it in her head that when she turns 16, somehow, some way, she's going to get a Jeep. I keep telling her, you're living in a dream world. That's never going to happen. And then the other is that the beach. She has been a beach-loving Florida girl from day one. It is her happy place. It is where she finds God the most. Even though she was born in North Carolina in the middle of a snowstorm, she still resonates as a Florida beach girl. Again, she's 14-year-old. But then you'll notice on it also includes, one of those signs that you typically find at the beach and tourist spots where it says, if you go this way, this many miles to this town, or this many miles to that town. It has the arrows pointing in different ways. When my mom was beginning to finish up the painting, she called and she wanted my take on what to put on these wooden signs. And so I gave her what I thought would be reasonable and what would be cool for her to put on there. And I'm really still not sure why she even called me, because she had already decided what she wanted to do. And she was like, that's great, but I'm thinking this. And I was like, Mom, why'd you call me? She goes, I really think I'm leaning towards putting on different descriptions of how I see and know Hayden Riley Jean. It's important to note that my mom and Hayden are peas in a pod. My mom helped raise her when Clay went to Afghanistan. She's been there from the very beginning, and they were the best of friends. There was one person on this earth that knew my child to the depths of her soul. It was my mom. And it is evidence, for you see her perfectly describe my middle child by the words kind, happy, tolerant. I think she's thinking of a different kid, but I will take it in. Determined, courteous, inquisitive, committed, I should have worn my glasses, accomplished, cherished, resilient, and loved. Can you imagine? One, having someone in your life that knows you to the depths that my mom knew her. And not only knows her to the depths, but is willing to see and state what she sees in her, so that my 14-year-old daughter, who will question herself over and over and over again for the next umpteenth years, now has that description hanging above her bed. And knows no matter what the world throws at her, there's at least one person that has walked this earth that truly loved her and knew her for the person that God had created her to be. Can you imagine if you had that to look at one last time as you get ready to close your eyes to go to sleep? Can you imagine having that to wake up to be a faithful reminder as you get ready to step out into this big, ugly world, that you, in fact, are known and loved for just the person that God has created you to be? God love. She says inquisitive. I say annoying. She says accomplished. I say you try 10,000 things. Can we pick one? But my mom, sees what lives within our hearts, and unknowingly, maybe knowingly, she identified this holy ache, this holy echo that lives within each and every last one of us. A sign that we were in fact made for more. That we in fact were made for more. That we were made to be known and to be loved. That we were created out of connection for connection. And that we were not meant to do this life on our own. Sometimes, actually, in the past few days, I've been going, Mom, couldn't you have made one for me? Like, that would have been awesome. But I don't need one. Because God's already created one for me. God has already reminded me and created a sign that lives within my hands at any moment in time, that lives within our Bibles, that lives within our phones, reminding us of exactly who we are and who we've always been, whose we are and how we were in fact created and why we were created. The world, I think, tries to tell us that we have a God that created us out of loneliness, a God that created us out of a whim, maybe just to experiment per se. But in fact, we know we have a God made up of three parts, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, that created us out of fullness of love, fullness of purpose. We have a God that created us so that we can be connected unto Him and to one another. The world lies to us over and over and over again and makes us tend to believe that we are no longer people who were created to be kind and imaginative, committed, resilient, and loved. Because if we're honest with ourselves, those words get buried over time. That maybe they were in our face for just a moment as we begin to read the story of God that tells us that we were made in His image, that we were made in His image and in His likeness, that the hurts, the falters, the missteps, the sorrow, the deaths, that they bury the truth of who we really are in the core of our hearts. Wholehearted living, this thing that we're beginning to talk about, this thing that we are inviting each of you into, because many of us on staff and friends that are connected to us have been walking this wholehearted journey. It doesn't begin with behavior. It begins with our hearts. And that's the key to all of this, is that the world and the different things that have happened to us in the midst of this world have disconnected us from the heart that God has created within us. I will tell you that I am prime example of exactly that. I mentioned that Riley and my mom have this special bond because she helped raise her when Clay was in Afghanistan for the first year of her life. And I know I've talked about that a little bit, but to survive that, to be a mom of a brand new baby girl and a 2-year-old, and for your husband to leave for an entire year to the other world who can't come back to help you at all, you have to go into survival mode, at least for me. Like, if I was going to be able to walk that and navigate that, I had to go into what we call survival mode. I had to cut off all my feelings. I had to get down and do the work, step by step, moment by moment. I had no time for feelings, no time for emotions, because if I opened that faucet, even just a little, the waters would take me under, and I would not know if I would drown or not. Survival mode. Many of us are doing life in survival mode. Many of us are living life through a trickle, per se. That we have our faucet, we've turned it as tight as humanly possible off from all of our feelings, all of our emotions, so that we can get through the next hard thing, the next hard thing, the next hard thing. But the problem is that we were never created to live a life through a trickle. We were created to live a life through the abundance of an overflowing faucet. Sometimes it may feel like a fire hose coming at you, but we were created to live in the fullness. I was not living in the fullness at all. I was surviving off of trickle after trickle after trickle, but it's what I needed for the moment. The problem is that when that moment came, that I could turn that faucet back on, get out of survival mode, I didn't know how to do it. I wasn't even able to identify that I was in fact still in survival mode. If Clay was here today, he would tell me or tell you that it was years after he got back from Afghanistan that we finally realized that we were both still in survival mode. I kept wondering, why is our marriage imploding? I kept wondering, why am I butting heads as a family? I kept wondering, why do I constantly feel like I'm drowning and I can't do anything right and can't do anything this or that? And I finally understood that I was so used to living life out of a trickle, I thought that that's all that I had available unto me. You know the story of David, right? Like King David has like the craziest story. Well, at least it's crazy to me. To be a guy that God says he's a guy after my own heart, to be picked and handpicked to be a king, and yet to falter as big as he did, to misstep as big as he did, and to God still say he has a heart that is coming after me over and over and over again. Do you know why? Because he is a guy. Gosh, I love Psalms. Please just go read Psalms. If you want to know what wholehearted living is, you go read the book of Psalms, because you will see every emotion under the sun and tapped into someone's whole heart. But you see a guy that I would probably say, maybe you shouldn't be so bold, and maybe you should be a little hesitant to ask God to search you and know you. Because I have a feeling there's a few places within you may not be ready to go to, you may not want to be aware of, but he boldly proclaims before God and says, search me and know me. Search me and know me. When I was living in survival mode, I actively said, do not search me, O Lord. Do not know me. I'm not there. I'm not going there. You can't make me go there. I will not go there. Leave me alone, God. Just for a little bit, leave me alone. But what I've learned in this wholehearted journey that I've been able to do for the past several years, and some of us have been doing it more specifically over the past year, that I've learned that if I'm going to live a wholehearted life, a life that God created us for, that is made out of the likeness of his image, that was made to be connected to his vine and his life, then I had to understand that wholehearted isn't polished, it's honest. Wholehearted isn't polished, it's honest. We are shiny, happy people, are we not? We are shiny, happy people. In the South, we do it the best, right? I think we could coin ourselves as the absolute tip top out of all of our nation to be the shiniest and happiest people on the outside when everything is falling apart in the inside. I did it this morning. Me who likes to say, I'll be open and honest with you, at 8:30 service when people were walking in and out and saying hello and how are you doing today? Because they know my life right now. They know how hard it is. I'm great, I'm fine, everything's good. Instead of saying, well, my blood sugar won't get with the program today. I'm not really sure how that's going to work out while I preach. And oh, by the way, my dad came to my house for the first time last night without my mom. And man, was that hard. And man, I'd rather be at my house with him this morning and spending extra time with him than being up here on the stage. And I am working through the fact that she's not there with him. But we're so used to believing and being shiny, happy people. Protecting ourselves. We live into the lie that it's wisdom to protect our hearts, to protect ourselves, to not share those places with ourselves, with God, and with others. But wholehearted isn't polished. It's honest. So the question for you this morning is, are you willing to do as David did? To stand before God and boldly proclaim, search me, O Lord, and know me. Search me, O Lord, and know me. Are you ready for you to know yourself? That's a big one. It all starts with the heart. But the problem is that we've not only cut God away from our heart, we've cut ourselves away from our heart. Jesus doesn't ask for the version of us that looks impressive. He asks for the version that's willing to be honest. Have you been honest with yourselves? And have you been honest with God? I like to be the person that keeps it all together. I like to be the person that you can turn to even in the midst of my own garbage and still know that I can be that person for you. But wholehearted allows you to understand your limitations. Allows you to understand that sometimes you just need to sit and ask him to come in with you. Because wholehearted living isn't about keeping it together. It's about letting him in where things are coming undone. Who wants anyone to come in where things are coming undone? Nevertheless ourselves, nevertheless God, or to invite those closest around us to come into those places that feel like they are just falling apart over and over and over again. Who wants to say, will you just come sit with me for a minute? While I completely sob on your shoulders to where I can't even catch a breath. Anybody? Not a single one of you. But Christ says, come to me. Christ says, you can do nothing without me. John 15, as Trey read, remain in me as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Apart from me, you can do nothing. I am tired of surviving. I want to live in the fullness of God and the fullness of the heart that He is desperately trying to create within me. I don't want to live off of a trickle. I want to live off of mighty rushing waters that come out of the wellspring of our own hearts, the wellspring of His love. I've learned the life. I've experienced the life that brings unto you. The goodness, the joy, the beauty that happens when you allow Him to meet you in those places that feel like they're just desperately falling apart and you don't even know how to put one foot in front of the other. I know what life is like when you're simply surviving, and I know the life you do not have. I thank God that I know the difference between the two, that I've experienced both, because now as I walk through the deepest grief that I've ever walked through, that when my entire heart says, I want to protect it and I want to cut myself off from God again and go back into that survival mode where I just put one friend in front of the other and become the shiniest, happiest person in the world to all others while I'm breaking inside, that I say no. That I know what life is like when I live from the wellspring that lives within me because of His love and because of His Spirit. I know the beauty and the goodness that can happen even in the midst of the deepest of joys. God love, if you're Facebook friends with me, one, I'm sorry because I post a lot, but two, is that if you saw just a snapshot of what wholehearted life could look like, you would see it from a video I posted last night. Anybody Facebook friends with me saw like how crazy my father is? And my father, they were together for 53 years. And last night, as he stayed with us for the night, it was the most beautiful and wonderful and hilarious thing you will ever see, is that he's come up with this stupid little dance called the Sonny Mac, and he can't dance, and he does. I'm not doing it because I'm not going to look like a fool, but he's like, Sonny Mac, do, 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 Sonny Mac, do, do. And it's hilarious. But I love is that when you live a life wholeheartedly, you can still experience the most beautiful moments of joy in the midst of the deepest grief that you may ever walk through. Wholehearted living isn't about keeping it together. It's about letting Him in where the things are coming undone. And maybe for you this morning, that means when you come to His table, when you come to take His body and His blood, and you meet Him here in this space, that you simply say, this is where I am, Lord. Come sit with me here. This is where I am, Lord. Come sit with me here. That you understand He's not asking for you to be perfect. He doesn't want your shiny, happy peopleness. He doesn't want you to be polished. He doesn't want the places that you think you have perfectly sewn back together. He wants you to say, come sit with me here in the unpolishedness, in the places that are falling apart. Your question, though, is, are you ready to be honest with Him and honest with yourself? This journey that we are inviting you into today, that we are super thankful has been introduced to us by an amazing group called the Wellspring Group, and who are connected to Dothan, Alabama, that has helped us learn what it really means to be wholehearted and how that life can be lived. We want to help you in that process to take the next step. We want to help you in the process to where you can, I was looking for the altar, that was last, sorry. That you can help that we can help you in these moments where he's just asking you to be honest with him. Honesty is hard. It is so hard. And especially in southern Alabama. Can we just name that? In southern Alabama, for you to say, I don't have it all together. For you to say, I'm not perfect. For you to say that I am living and leading out of a completely broken heart and just trying to kind of figure my way through it all is hard. So much so that most of us may never do it. My hope and prayer for you today, as you come to meet your Savior, the one that gave over his life so that you could, in fact, have the ability to experience the fullness of life, that you will be bold and you will be courageous